Welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. I love talking to authors because they have the courage to take their thoughts, their stories, their lessons, put it down in a book, and share it with the many, ultimately changing their legacy and destiny in the process. And if you're an entrepreneur out there, I highly recommend you write a book. It will help you obtain clarity, self awareness, and many opportunities. If you need help with that, check out dreamstarterspublishing.com. We can help you out with wherever you're at in the process. And also, if you have a book that's already done, you want to use the book as a lead magnet for your business, check out bookmarketingcrm.com. Now, as you know, on this podcast, we talk a lot about financial planning, mindset, and success, and joy, and playing, and working. And that's why this next guest is perfect, because he wrote a book. I think it ties it all together, and it's called Financial Planning, how to create joy and the mindset for success. Financial planning made personal. That's the title of the book, How to Create Joy and the Mindset for Success. The author is with us today, Lawrence Sprung. Thanks so much for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.
Well, let's start off with the genesis of this book. What made you want to write it? And if you can give us a quick little background glimpse of where you come from and how you got onto this path, that'd be ideal.
Yeah, so the book was 10 years in the making, and quite frankly, I just had the time to start doing it and putting it together, which was great. And really, the genesis of it was I got sick and tired of hearing some of these so-called pundits out there that you see on, mainstream media talking about what people should do, and more importantly, talking about it in a way that everybody should be doing this or everybody should be doing that. And Mike, quite frankly, that doesn't work, because
No.
what works for one does not work for another. And that's why the title of the book is Financial Planning Made Personal. So there are some topics or, key takeaways like starting early, utilizing compound interest, paying yourself first. These are concepts that everybody can use. But at the same time, there's not one strategy that works for everyone. So that was really the impetus behind the book. And I think the second impetus was I got tired of people who talked about, oh, well, you spend X number of dollars on that coffee every day. Well, if you take that and you put in a Roth IRA instead of buying the coffee, you'll have an extra $20,000 when you're 70 years old. And the reality is that may very well be true. But if you get joy from having that cup of coffee, there's got to be a fine line between enjoying the money and what you've created today and saving for tomorrow. And,
Right.
that really ties into the second question that you had is, how I got into this. The firm name, my firm is Mitlin Financial, Mitlin. And the firm's name is a genesis of my mom, Linda, she's the LIN, and my wife's grandfather, Mitchell, he's the MIT, who died back in 1997. They died within several hours of each other. And then I ended up meeting my wife. And we're happily married now for 24 years and have two boys who are 18 and soon to be 21. And we've created this life. And we wanted to create a firm that embodied the principles of these two individuals. And the point and the tie back to the book and why I'm doing what I'm doing is my mom Linda, who I mentioned earlier, she passed away at the age of 47.
Hmm.
And I watched my dad go through the trials and tribulations of, not only keeping up the household, he was working as a full-time teacher. He also had side gigs, side jobs before they were called side gigs. And he did as good a job as anybody could expect under the situation. And nothing he could have done would have changed my mom's situation. But the point is that my mom and dad were thinking about saving for retirement. They had all these goals and dreams. And unfortunately, my mom didn't make it there. So, we really have to understand what the money and what we're saving, what it's all about. It's really a tool to bring joy to our lives. And there has to be a fine balance between enjoying today and putting money away for retirement. You can't put everything away for hopefully it's 65 or 70, whatever that age is for you, and hope that you make it there and be miserable or not live life to the fullest along the line. So that really is what motivated me to get into this profession and help families navigate that, build the balance in their lives, and find joy along the way and through the process.
I like it. Yeah, joy first, money second. I think you have that in the summary of the book. That makes sense to me. I do know there's an aspect of delayed gratification whenever it comes to starting a business and putting work in, and you will be rewarded eventually. But I think you need to have a sense of play in everything you do. You need to enjoy the journey, the adventure. And Alan Watts has a great quote that you should, he says, you should, or he did say, whenever he was around, that you need to have no difference between a sense of work and or when you're working and a sense of play. You should be in the same state of mind. And when you can do that, that's when you can become successful. And I believe that, right? I've been in rooms with multimillionaires where I'm the only person in that room that actually enjoys what they do. An individual stood up at a boardroom and says, "How many people really love their business and what they do? We're all doing this for our family and for the generational wealth. You guys really don't enjoy what you do, right?" And I'm like, "I do. I'm the only I was the only one." And there were two billionaires in that room. So it makes sense that, you're on this planet for such a short time. Enjoy it. And that's why I'm in total agreement that there's a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, give up everything you enjoy, put it into a Roth IRA, and then you'll be able to enjoy it whenever you're older." Well, I will tell you right now, man, I've been around the country. I've been in a Jeep traveling around. I do not want to do that when I'm 65 years old. I'm
Right.
39, and I can't even imagine doing that 10 years from now. So do it while you're healthy, young, and you have the energy. So I'm with you. But chapter one is all about discovering your why. Can you go into a little bit of detail on how people can do that?
Yeah, I think that the important thing is, people have a tendency to do a good job of starting to save money and open up retirement accounts, 401ks, whatever it may be, because they've been indoctrinated that this is something they should do. But at the same time, what they're missing is, well, why are they setting it up? Why are they creating these accounts? Why are they buying these investment properties? Why are they doing all these things? And I think before you have that why, it's very hard to understand and feel confident and motivated in doing that. So you have to look at your inner self. And if you're a single person, obviously you do that on your own. If you're married or with a significant other, you have to sit down together and you may have some individual whys that each of you have. And then there should be a combined why for you as a couple or as a family. And you have to figure out, what are your goals? Why are you accumulating this money? Why are you doing all this? Why are you sacrificing and having that delayed gratification today for the future? What does that why look to you? And going back to the original idea behind the book, that's different for everybody. So that's going to look different, and the planning around that's going to look very different. But until you can drill down, and I think that the way to really do that is keep asking yourself, well, why am I doing that? Why? Until you drill down 5, 6, 7 steps to get to that root reason as to why you're actually putting the money away. And it may be, oh, hey, I saw my parents go into a assisted living facility, and I don't want that to happen to me. Or it may be, I don't want to have to worry about money after the age of X. Or there could be so many iterations of that. You got to figure out that why and then start planning around it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that my why really started to take form as I became more successful. Like, all right, what am I really doing? And I think it began with a question I asked myself: how did I want to be remembered? And I wrote my dream obituary. And I wrote this paragraph of all the things that I wanted people to say about me when I was gone. And I realized that all of it, 100% of it, was not true at that very moment. And I thought to myself, now I need to fix myself. I need to really build the life that I dream of. And my why is impact and legacy and inspiring and motivating and help people take action, right? So articulating it on a piece of paper and looking at it day in and day out might give you some type of advantage on a daily basis. Am I right? Just put it down
Yeah,
on
I
a
mean,
piece of paper and look at it, review it, and live by it.
yeah, 100%. And that why could change over time too. So, if you wake up, like to your point, if you have it on that piece of paper, and maybe not if you wake up one day, but if you wake up after a week or two and you're looking at that paper and you're like, this doesn't really resonate with me any longer, then that's really an impetus to say, hey, I have to go back through that same process I went to figure out that why and figure it out. It may have changed. My why, has been for a long time family. I lost my mom at the age of 47. My wife's brother, we lost him. He died by suicide at the age of 27.
Jeez.
So mental health is very important to us. So seeing those two separate events in my life really, empowered me and really showed me that my why is my family. I don't want to, you know, be 65 and say, oh, I wish I had golfed more with my boys. I wish I had gone to more hockey games with my family. I wish we had done more trips together. We're doing that. And as long as you can budget for that and put it into your plan, and again, if you know your why, you can create your plan around that why. And as long as you could budget for it and afford it and it fits into that plan, then do it. Take the trip, drink the coffee, enjoy life while you can. But at the same time, make sure that you're planning for that future why as well.
Yeah, I'm right. The great quote that you should build your business around your dream life rather than build your dream life around your business, right? And I was doing the wrong way of that early on. Business was everything, right? And if I had, couple things that I've always wanted to do, whether it's ride motorcycles or travel the country, things that were on my bucket list, I'll get to it eventually. And thank God gave me the time to do so and right those wrongs and right the ship, if you will. But my God, once you start to understand your why, you can almost envision your perfect day. And then you could start to plan your schedule. And when you could take care of your or take control of your schedule, that's whenever you can become very decisive on who you work with, what you do with your money, how to budget. And I think you can, get that wheel of life in order. And it makes me think of one of your other lessons about paying yourself first. So I read a book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, and I was actually on the way to pick up a motorcycle, and I'm like, wow, this is a really smart idea. Just have different buckets. And I'm telling you, it wasn't all at once, but I read that, and then I went and got multiple bank accounts, and then slowly but surely it started to take form of how I would use it. But can you explain to our audience how important that is? Pay yourself first.
Yeah, I believe we're the most important people in our own lives, right? But we don't necessarily treat ourselves that way. Typically, and I'm not saying everybody, but typically you get your paycheck, you pay all of your bills, your responsibilities, and then whatever's left over, maybe that goes towards a retirement account, an investment account, a vacation account, what have you. And to me, that's backwards. It really should be turned on its head. You should figure out what percentage of your income you want to pay yourself first, that you want to have left over at the end of the day after you pay everybody else. And I think I use the example like, let's say that number's 10%. Then when you get paid, 10% should be peeled off, put into those accounts that you're looking to fund. And that's going to be different for everybody out there, but fund those accounts and then figure out a way to pay those people that you have to pay: utilities, rent, mortgage, with that remaining 90% in this example. And the crazy thing is, or not so crazy, is many people think, oh, well, I can't do that. It's not going to work. It does, because you use it as a filtering device, because now you have this finite amount of money to use, and you start making decisions about where that money's going. Maybe it's not going to the smartest places. Maybe you have too much in expenses that you want to cut back. And you'll surprisingly work into a situation where you'll be able to live in that 90%. And you might be able to, then change it to 15% a year later once you get used to that. But you have to pay yourself first, because if you're going to rely on whatever's left over at the end of the day, the likelihood of you being successful financially over the long run is a very difficult proposition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then whenever it comes to paying yourself first, you start to maybe have the different buckets where you could see, oh, this is my play money. This is what I can do with it. And then you start to realize, well, I don't have as much as I thought I did. Now I need to create multiple revenue streams. And that's where it leads to another chapter of yours, create a side gig. I realized that in 2020, I had one revenue stream. Even though I was an entrepreneur, I'm thinking to myself, I got one business with one revenue stream. I'm good. But when shit hits the fan like it did in 2020, that's when you're exposed, and then you are not free. You might not have a business, but if you have multiple revenue streams, you start to maybe can do what Jay Leno did back in his day. He would take his money from being on TV, put it in one bank account, and then he would take all of his other money that he made from doing stand up and buy his cars with it, right? So it's like you can dissect the money based off of where it comes in at, and that helped me out tremendously. So this side hustle that you talk about, we wrote a book, or we helped write a book and put together one for a guy named Tony Wadley. He wrote a book called The Side Hustle Millionaire. And I love that word or that phrase, side hustle, because I mean that could be the main hustle eventually. So tell me about chapter 4 if you can.
Yeah, well, I think that, where people get hung up sometimes is, a lot of people, unfortunately, like you talked about earlier about that boardroom where everybody stood up and, somebody stood up and said, "Hey, is anybody happy?" And the vast majority of people were not. Unfortunately, that's pretty common. And what happens is they don't feel like there's any way for them to get out or remove themselves or find something new because maybe they've been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years and they feel like they're stuck in this rut. And a lot of people feel like, well, if I try to do something else that, I'm going to take a hit in income, I'm going to take a step back. Well, I don't think it has to happen that way. If there's something you're truly passionate about that you can transition to over time from something you're not really passionate about and you're not joyful about, that you can move, then start that out. And it doesn't have to be all or none. It's something you can start doing in those hours after work that you're out of those normal working hours and start working in that area. I think I gave an example in the book about a family we work with where the wife was really loved photography, and she started taking photo shoots of expecting mothers and then expecting mothers after they had when they had their babies. And she slowly started working in that area and grew it and ended up being a full-time gig. And I think it's something that you can kind of, in today's economy and environment, you can kind of have, a foot in both things. You can have that full-time role, still have that side gig. And, when you don't have enough funds maybe to meet those expenses, but maybe they're all pertinent expenses, that side gig could be very pertinent to doing that. But, with that comes caution. Don't just quit your day job to go into this side gig, because it may work, it may not. Number one. Number two, it may not be something you're passionate about when all said and done. You may think so at the beginning, but maybe when you get into it, it's not something that you're really passionate about. So it gives you the opportunity to find something you love if you're not loving what you're doing, and create that side hustle as a side gig and start working in that direction and build that up over time and see if it's something that you could fully transition into.
Now, I'm reading the summary of the book, and it says the net proceeds of financial planning made personal are being donated to the Keith Milano Memorial Fund at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I'm assuming that is your sister's brother. Is that right?
Keith was my wife's brother,
Oh, it's wife's brother.
my
Okay.
brother-in-law.
Said wife, sister's brother. What am I
Yeah,
saying?
that's all
Right? I'm losing my mind here.
right.
Yeah. Uh, wife's brother. Okay. So, unbelievable. So 27 years old. That's crazy. So, obviously you said mental health is extremely important to you and to your mission. What is going on out there? What have you come across? Why is it such a problem? I only have my assumptions because I'm not well versed in that world, but when it comes to the pills that people are given at a very young age, when it comes to social media and how people are being, you know, I guess you could say, put into this comparison philosophy that my life is not as good as someone else's life, but and then also the victim mindset is just spreading like wildfire. That rather than take control of certain things, do X, Y, and Z, and therefore you give up your power. So I think there's a culture shift. There's many things medically, but suicide is up for men. Mental health is on the decline. What is going on? What have you come across?
Yeah, so just to be clear, I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm just somebody who's gone through the experience with a family member and also sat on the national board for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention for about 14 years. I still serve on their investment and finance committee, and I'm very involved with the organization still. And what you're talking about is it's a very complex problem. It's a very complex challenge, and it's multifaceted. But here's the thing: I think the thing that's changed over the 20 years since my brother-in-law passed away is people like you who are willing to have this conversation and put it out there. It's happening more readily and more often. And I put this akin to my mom passed away at the age of 47 to breast cancer. And when she was diagnosed at the, in her 30s, back in, the early 90s, if you will, the medications, the treatments, they weren't there like they are today. And, there were individuals that wouldn't socialize with my mom because they thought that cancer might be contagious back then. So I liken that to where we are with mental health. And we're on that continuum of educating people and getting people to talk more about it. And I think the more conversation we have about it and the more open and honest dialogue we have about it, the better off we're all going to be. And if people are open and honest and willing to talk and reach out to friends and family, there's opportunity to help those people before we get to that point. So, although things are not looking great out there from a mental health and maybe the statistics standpoint, I would say that I'm cautiously optimistic that there's a lot of good going on. And I would also say that a lot of the things that we're hearing about, it may seem like the numbers are going through the roof, but in reality, they're not. We're just hearing about it a lot more because people are being open and honest about what's really going on out there. And I think that's the key to unlocking and reducing the stigma so people feel more comfortable about seeking treatment, help, if and when they need it.
Yeah, and I mean, it can be anybody, no matter how successful you are. I just saw Grayson, I forget his first name, or that is his first name.
Yep.
The golfer just
Yep.
committed suicide, dealing with many mental health issues openly for I guess years, and he's won many tournaments, right? So he was he's one of the best golfers in the world, and he's still battling with it.
And
Um,
kudos to his family, right?
right?
Because
Yes.
there are a lot of people out there, if this would have happened 10, 15, 20 years ago, they may have blamed it on something else and we may not have ever have known. And kudos to his family for coming out and saying and releasing that he died by suicide. And I think that it's stories like that that help understand and reduce that stigma.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just crazy that with all the bells and whistles and toys that we have and the AI and social media and all these great things, it seems like happiness, I don't know, from what I've gathered, people are not as happy as they once were. And you can travel to different countries, you can go to people who have basically nothing, and studies show that those people day to day are happier than people in America. And so it's just wild to see. And in my opinion, maybe it has something to do with spirituality. So is there any type of message within this book when it comes to, you know, joy and the mindset for success, to maybe tying all that to a higher purpose, to being able to give back and make an impact, but also a spiritual component to it?
So I think that happiness, in my view, is like this unattainable utopia, if you will. Like we're all striving for happiness. I think that there are few and far in between people that could say, "Hey, I am truly happy." I think that's like the end goal. I think joy along the way and having joyful moments and joyful experiences help lead you towards that happiness goal, if you will. I think that when you look at the book, we talk about this three-legged stool, which is your mental health, your physical health, and your financial health, and they're all tied into each other. And you can't lack in one area and not have it affect another. So I think it's important to work on all those areas, and whether that's spiritually, working on that area, or it's simply knowing your why and being on the same page with your significant other and your family, whatever that means for you, that certainly is going to be a help to those legs of the stool and making sure that your mental health is good or better than it could be, and help assist in the financial and the physical health as well.
Hmm. I watched an interview with Elon Musk recently, and somebody was asking him about his philanthropical duty, right? Because he has all this money, should he be more philanthropical and giving more money back? And his answer was so profound. All of my businesses are philanthropy, right? They are about giving back to the world. When it comes to Tesla, sustainable energy, right? A business can be full of philanthropy from the jump. Doesn't mean that you okay, I just take money and I give it somewhere. My business solves problems for the world, and I think that is a way to look at it. When you write a book, you're doing it in a way that's giving back knowledge and insight, but also raising awareness and funds for something that is near and dear to your heart, but also could really impact a lot of people. So I think that is another aspect of this entrepreneurial journey. I recommend to everybody think like an entrepreneur, whether it's a side gig, or writing a book and using that book to just raise awareness for a message that you care about. You start to look at it as, wow, I can do something, whether it's at a small level or a major level. And once you do that, I think that ties into maybe really defining what your next stage of your life looks like. So, do you agree that no matter where you're at, whatever you do, you can become this entrepreneur at any stage, any level, and really treat it as a philanthropy based mission?
100%. I mean, I had a good friend of mine who was a mental performance coach, not mental, but performance coach, business performance coach. And at a very young age with my kids, he told them to go out and get business cards printed as if they were the CEO of their own life. And I think that that is such an empowering and impactful thing to do that, whether to your point, whether you're going to write a book, whether you're a corporate exec with a side hustle, whatever that may be, or maybe you're just you're whatever your role is, have a business card for it and have something to strive for, and look at it. Going back to your point of looking at that why. If you look like my kids look at that card and see that they're CEO of their life,
So
that
good.
empowers them to make decisions every day until they are the CEO maybe of their own business. So I think there's a lot to that. And I think, having that philanthropic component, whether it's to your business or your personal life, I think it's so important because, we have to be grateful for what we have. And there's a lot of people, no matter where you are in life, no matter where you are, where you are or where you think you are, there are people that are less fortunate than you. And there are certainly people that will benefit and deserve to get some assistance from you. And it's very rewarding to do that, whether it's creating a business that's going to help the world, whether it's donating profits or proceeds from a book, or simply making a donation or volunteering time. I think they're all impactful in different ways and can add a lot of value not only to your life, but the lives of those that you're helping as well.
Mm-hmm. Jordan Peterson has this great quote. He says, happiness is the realization that you are making incremental progress towards a goal, right? It's not hitting the goal. It's being aware that you're on the path to obtaining the goal. And I thought that was so powerful. Maybe that's joy in your world, right? That's
That
the
is.
definition of joy. And I think that it all starts with that goal and being mission oriented. And I've talked about this on this podcast recently. And there are studies that show the happiest people are those who are on a mission, whether it's to wake up and build a business, write a book, take care of their family, or to do something significant in the sports world. People who are mission oriented are the most happy. So, was there ever a time in your life where maybe you did get cloudy with that mission or you lost it and you felt like a ship without a rudder or without a sails and you kind of were drifting? And when you drift, that's when the bad things happen, right? You pick up the bad habits, you start to make bad decisions, you start to have that lust for life go away. Anything like that that happened in your life that really maybe put you in this ground zero moment that maybe helped you analyze, okay, wow, I do need to correct some of these things. And maybe it does begin with the clarity of where I'm taking this life. So anything like that you could share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most impactful situation was losing my mom at such an early age. That really put me on a path to say, hey, I have, I was only she passed away the day after my 23rd birthday,
Oh,
so I was still very, very early on into my career. But that was really an eye opener to me, and in terms of I have to have a mission because maybe I don't have the time that I think I have. When you're younger, you think you have all the time in the world. And as you get older, that window starts shrinking a little bit. But I, at 23, started thinking, well, maybe I only have 47 years. So if I only have 47 years like my mom did, that means I only got 24 left. So I have to be on a mission to get everything or do everything I want to do in that short period of time and
Great
start
point.
working there. So that was really the most impactful piece of kind of takeaway for me. And then, not for nothing, 2004, roughly 17 years later, I'm sorry, well, 7 years later, we run into the same situation with losing my brother-in-law. And that was just another stark reminder of, hey, we got to really double down on this mission. And that's really where the why of my family came in, and was really just so important to me, and has put me on a mission to make sure that the I don't talk about work-life balance because I don't believe in that. I think work-life balance gives the implication that you have to give up in one area to get in another. So I talk about work-life harmony, and we've created a life, my wife and I, in a way that our work and our life are integrated. As an entrepreneur, I don't think there's any other way for you to do that. But there has to be that enjoyment factor, not only within the four walls of the business, but also within the family structure as well. And we've been very mindful about creating that.
Mm. Yeah, what you said, I want to touch on about the shortened time frame. You looked at maybe the finish line as being 47, right? Everybody thinks they have 90 to 100 years to do X, Y, and Z in their life. But if you shorten that time frame and you put something on the calendar, it becomes very real. And so there's that great quote, and I don't know it exactly, but people overestimate what they can do in a week, but they underestimate what they can do in a year, or something like that. And it's basically realizing that if you really have a mission and you put a date on the calendar and you make it a shortened window, I think there's a thing called Parkinson's law that applies to you where you will get certain things done based off of the time frame you give yourself. So if you give yourself a year to write the book, it'll get done in a year or maybe not at all. But if you give yourself a month to write the book, most likely it'll get done, but it'll get done in 30 days. So the time frame really matters, and I like how you put that you shortened the time frame so it was 47, and that created action, urgency, and allowed you to get the wheels turning faster, more efficiently. So is there
Yeah.
anything you could share with our audience of how important that is, that having the date but also maybe shorten the time frame by quite a bit will actually give you the best chances of success?
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, I think the most practical thing is, every listener here has gone on vacation at some point while they were working, either as an entrepreneur or as an employee, right? And if you think about it, what are some of your most productive days? Those few days leading up to vacation. Why?
Oh,
Because what?
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be out of the office for a week, 10 days, whatever it is. So laser focused. I got to get basically 2 weeks worth of work done in 1 week. And amazingly, most of it gets done. Well, at least the important stuff gets done. Hopefully, the unimportant stuff, you kind of leave that on the side because it'll be there no matter what when you get back. But that's the same idea here, is just thinking about it on a bigger scale. And to your point, yeah, I was going to actually use that same quote. We underestimate what we could do in overestimate what we could do in a year and underestimate what we could do in 5 or 10.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
there's so much that we can do, and having that date, you know, is so important, vitally important. And I would impart upon the listeners this: if you set the date for a year or two, whatever the date is, or a month, whatever, and you blow by it, as long as you've made progress, it's okay. You haven't failed. Just because maybe you underestimated what the project was going to be. Maybe you underestimated how much time. But having that date will create such a great amount of action that you will be much further ahead of where you would have been had you not put that date on the calendar.
Man, it's good. Tell me a little bit about your business. When I hear somebody who says, joy first, money second as a financial planner, it always, catches me off guard. I'm like, wait a second, that's different from every financial planner I've ever heard. So, what is your business?
Yeah, so we're a wealth management firm. You know, if you think about a traditional financial advisory practice, wealth management, that's what we are. But we're different in this way in terms of focusing on the joy first and the money second. We want to have families that we're working with that are joyful about the work that we're doing and the lives that they're living and leading. And you know, that's really shown by the fact that we're now working with you know, third and in some cases fourth generations of families we started with 20 years ago. And I think it's so vitally important, and that joy component really resonates with the families we work with, and it's a bit of a tool in terms of, you know, a filtering tool. Like if a family comes to us and they're first and foremost interested in, well, what are my returns going to be? How are my investments going to perform? That's, you know, we don't have control over the markets. We can't control how things are going to go up and down necessarily. But what we can control is we can help them design a game plan that's going to lead to joyful events in their life and help guide them along that continuum to work them towards their ultimate goals, which are hopefully joyful. And I'll give you a perfect example. We have a family we work with. That the husband is a American Airlines pilot and he has to retire because he's turning 65. So tomorrow I'm flying down to Tampa. I'm meeting him and 20 of his friends. We're going out to dinner. And then Sunday morning, we're getting on a flight flying from Tampa to Miami. And then he's going to be flying us all home on his last flight. And we're going to be all there for that joyful event. Now,
Wow.
you know, you talk about finance. What does that have to? It has nothing to do with finance, but it's a joyful event in his life. We've planned accordingly for it, and now it's time to enjoy this experience with him and his family.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, that's significant moments. The more I write books, the more I understand how important it is to live a story worth telling slash worth reading. And if you sit there as a miser and you just save your money, that's not a great story. But if you embrace these moments that are significant to you and to those around you, uh, those are stories that people can get behind. They can envision. They can also relate to, but inspires them to do the same thing. And I think that's awesome. You have a couple
I
websites I want to really share. Make sure we get it in here in the show notes also. But if you guys are out there and you want to listen to his book, read it, maybe check out the first two chapters. Check out financialplanningmadepersonal.com. You're giving away the first two chapters for free. So you can go to that website. And then you have a couple other ones when it comes to your businesses. So there's Midland Money Mindset, midlandmoneymindset.com. I like how you put it in here that Midland comes from the memory of Larry's, yeah, for your wife's grandfather, Mitchell, and his mother, Linda, right? That's how you put it
correct.
together.
Yeah,
So, midlandmoneymindset.com. You can find it on Twitter or X, LinkedIn, and it looks like on YouTube. Oh, I guess you have a YouTube channel I got to check out. And then there's the other one, midlandfinancial.com. So, I guess they could schedule a call through you or with you through one of those websites. Is that right?
absolutely. You know, the book site, if they're interested in the book, the podcast, Midland Money Mindset, and then our firm, if you're interested in having a consultation and seeing if we're a fit, there's a link to schedule an Is There a Fit call.
Nice. And where are you located?
We're on Long Island and Hauppauge in New York.
Got it. Okay. And a question we always ask our guests outside of your own book, is there one that maybe put you on this path or made you fall in love with obtaining and helping other people obtain joy? Anything that stands out, whether it's the
Yeah.
entrepreneur career path that you've chosen or just legacy in general, what would you say? Is there a book?
Well, I was going to share with you because you were talking about those stories and those moments and the joyful moments. And, you know, the thing I think of first and foremost, and I think every entrepreneur should read, is a book called The Power of Moments. It is an amazing book. It talks about how to create memorable moments for the people that you work with. And I think it's left an indelible mark on me and the way that we manage the practice here and the way we work with the families we serve.
Power of moments. I ask all of our guests, and that is not one that's I see on this list at all. So I don't know it.
Okay.
But yeah, what's the point of all this, right? We're out there slaying dragons. We are running into chaos day in and day out. If we are not enjoying it and we don't see any type of transformation or progress or these dopamine hits that come from these little wins or big wins, what the hell's the point of all this, right? Does anybody really want to follow you into battle or jump on your team if you don't enjoy this journey of life? Don't think so.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
No way.
So I call you Lawrence. Do you prefer Larry? I didn't
Yeah,
ask you
Larry's
that.
fine. Yeah,
Oh,
Larry's fine. Either
Larry,
way, I answer to both.
okay, good deal. Well, it's been an honor to talk with you. Is there any other, whether it's book that you're working on or one you have out there that you recommend for people to check out, or any other way of checking out your LinkedIn page or anything that I didn't mention?
Yeah, no, Mike, I think you mentioned it all. I really appreciate the time here. And, if people are looking to hear more joyful stories and conversations, definitely the Midland Money Mindset podcast would be the place to do that. And if they're looking to learn more about how potentially to view their money and their financial situation, then the book, Financial Planning Made Personal. What did you do today that brought you joy? Thank
Nice.
you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Guys, check out his book. Net proceeds of financial planning made personal are being donated to Keith Milano Memorial Fund at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And he's on a mission. So help him obtain that. And remember, guys, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life. Right on.